um, 33rd session of Manav Vyavhar Darshan English translation. And I mean, we have indeed come a long way. And today we are reading chapter number 15. And Keyuri from Manav Teerth is going to be reading this. Um, I had recently visited Keyuri, and there she was the doctor. She is a doctor there, and for all the children there, about 75 children there in the hostel there, staying 75 people. And she would actually set up her clinic there in the mess area, which is very nicely set up uh, place. And before she would come there, five, six guys would already be waiting on her. And and I would see that she would be doing so much hard work uh, all the day, taking care of the children, sometime giving them sponge, sometime giving them kada or some other medicines. So really hats off to her. Apart from apart from being a doctor, she is also studying darshan over there. So, so I think let's hear from Keyuri, her background and uh, how she got interested into studying darshan. And uh, very warm welcome to you, Keyuri. Over to
Thank you,
you.
Chachaji. Thank you, Chachaji. Namaste, everybody. So, I'm Keyuri, and my introduction to darshan happened through my father. He has always been my inspiration. Maybe at some point I didn't realize it, but right now I'm extremely grateful to him and also my entire family because mainly because Papa made it very easy for me and for my family to accept that I want to work in this path or I want to study this. So, because he took up so much of that virod or the conflict from everybody that I was able to very easily get into it. I didn't have to go through anything per se. Also, I got this at a very young age, so this has been very helpful. And I did my 6 months Adhyayan in Acchoti under Yogesh Chachaji, which helped me a lot. I was not very good at talking about Adhyayan or talking about the content, but I was able to see a large difference in how I used to think about things and now how I think about it. So that was a major shift. After that, I decided to do Ayurveda. Amba Bhua-sa used to come to Acchoti very regularly at that time. There used to be 3 months camps, medical camps she used to take. So during those time, I would always see how she interacted with everybody and how the patients or people would just go and visit her. And she actually made an effort to meet everybody while she was there. So within the 10 days, and now I know this even more because I have spent those 10 days with her constantly for 24 hours. I am with her. So this was very interesting and very new for me. For somebody who wants to be so samajik, so social, this was very different. So and at the time, Ashok Chachaji also mentioned this one line that one should decide their career based on how you see other people who are already in the career and how you see them living their life. That is one way of, being able to visualize how I will become when I grow older or in this particular very easy one for that matter. And I also have a very good family background in this, thanks to Dado sir and Pardado sir and everybody. So that is how I got into it. And then after that, I always had it in mind. I was very lucky that I have been able to meet Babaji. And Babaji once said, I think I was in class 11th or 12th, when he just said something in Kannada and I was not able to understand. So Sriram Kaku was there and he mentioned that Babaji said कि इसके बाद मानव तीर्थ आओ. So come to Manav Teerth after you finish your education. So, okay, Babaji said this, so I have to do. And I had this in my mind that I will go to Manav Teerth as soon as I finish my Ayurveda. And I did that in January this year, 2024. And February, I arrived to Manav Teerth. So right now, I it feels like what I've learned in the past 5.5 years, maybe also 25 years, the same amount of change and the same amount of learning is happening right now in these few months. So big difference again. And I feel like whatever was in my mind and whatever I had thought about I'm able to put at least most of it or maybe everything into practice. So this is very helpful. And I'm very grateful to the entire Jeevan Vidya Parivar as well as Manav Teerth Parivar for this. Okay, I
So
was.
wonderful, Keyuri. That was very nice. And in fact, Sadhan Bhaiya was also saying some very kind words about you and your family, Himanshu Bhaiya. That I mean, the one thing that stands out for both of you is the single-minded devotion for whatever you have accepted as your uh, volition. So, a significant result cannot come without devotion. And a devotion is one quality or an acharan that is a must for achieving something that we are looking to achieve. Like even Babaji actually starts as with Manvyata Purna Acharan. The first acharan that he describes is bhakti, right? And unless we have that kind of devotion, we cannot achieve that. And we see that in you and Bhaiya. So very nice. And so look forward to listening to you. Mm.
Thank you. I will now start the session. So I will start chapter 15, Manav Sahaj Nyay, Natural Justice in Humans. So, um, yes. So the first Anubhuti is humans remain inclined with differentiation of justice and opportunism. I believe that this chapter, so the chapter 1 to 15 have basically been definitions about how about different words that are used in darshan and are going to be used in the further books. Chapter 16 is all about society and how we can live in a society or how a society should be. And chapter 17 seems to be about realization and jagrati. So what is interesting is that Samaj or society chapter comes before Jagrati. That means that we need to practice how to live in a society, in a Samaj, before we actually attain realization. So this is something very new and very interesting. So abhyas or practice towards doing the right thing is extremely important. Yes. So humans remain inclined with differentiation of justice and opportunism. I believe that human life is structured by the way we choose to live, either through justice or through opportunism. And every human is born as a seeker of justice, but because we lack understanding and we lack certain inputs, that is why we are drawn towards opportunism. Now, the law in which a seeker finds refuge is referred to as regulation. Uh, so there is a rule in existence that every entity is constantly moving towards growth. हर इकाई विकास की ओर गतिशील है. And for this growth to occur, regulation of some kind is essential. Regulation could be through following a certain dincharya, following a certain regimen throughout the day, and through seasonal regimens for the body. And a certain way of thinking, correct way of thinking, would also be a type of regulation. Now, if we take an example, say we want to go into IIT. So there are certain rules and qualifications that are required to go into it. Similarly, for medical college and law college, etc., there are qualifications, there are certain exams you have to pass, and lots of hard work that one needs to do. So these qualifications are what make us, they guide us towards this. And so in this same way, that to attain a correct refuge, to attain refuge under something big, there are certain practices and rules that we need to follow. And this is what guides and regulates a human being towards doing right. Refuge, that from which one's existence or behavior is regulated, is its refuge. So every entity is regulated by something or someone. Every entity wants to listen to somebody who they feel is bigger than them, who they feel is more experienced than them, who they believe to be superior. So humans are also governed by these influences. They are also regulated by these influences. And whatever regulates them is the refuge. So humans can be regulated by other humans. They can be regulated by state. They can be regulated by religion. And yes, so these are mainly three things that I see that humans can be regulated by. Humans who live in the refuge of justice have the discernment of truth, untruth, dharma, adharma, justice, injustice. They are proficient in establishing behavioral cohesiveness and lead a flawless life, thereby ensuring the protection of humaneness. So, justice-oriented humans who are the ones who seek refuge in justice. So, righteousness, truth, satya, and righteousness would be dharma. So, they are the ones that can live a flawless life of integrity. And with clear understanding of their purpose and their duties, their responsibilities. So kartavya daitva need to be clear. And this clarity of what our responsibilities are, what our duties are, is reflected in how we act and we behave in our day-to-day life. So, and this will guide us towards bliss, that is Anand. And when we can interact with everybody in the same manner, as in there are hardly any ups and downs in our behavior. There is a consistency, and everybody is able to see the same thing in us. It's not that one person thinks that we are like this, the other person thinks that this person is like this. So everybody thinks the same thing about the person based on their own intellect, obviously. And we are also able to perform a justice-oriented behavior with everybody. So this is what leads us to bliss or Anand. And this is the essence of awakening or realization. Some people are trying to live like this, even in current times. That is why humanity has survived and sustained for this long. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been possible for us to, like we see the sun, and in Karna Darshan it was mentioned that the sun was originally a place where humans lived, but because they created such a mess and they did a lot of inhumane activities. That is why it is the way it is right now. So it seems that our planet or humanity has survived because there are a lot of people, right, even today, who are trying to practice this. So there is hope for us. Okay. Opportunistic humans remain obsessed with the pleasant, unpleasant, healthy, unhealthy, profit, loss, and exhibit pretentious behavior. This inevitably leads to the anguish of dissatisfaction, restlessness, and uncertainty. As the beliefs of ignorance rapidly shift, although the goal of an opportunist's action is also happiness, they do not succeed this way. So, an opportunistic person would be one who only thinks through things that are pleasant or unpleasant to them, that are healthy or unhealthy for their body, or in terms of profit and loss. And that is why they constantly change their behavior and thoughts based on whether the circumstances are favorable or unfavorable for them. So if they change their behavior and thoughts constantly, that means they will sometimes act very nicely or poorly. That is what I think the word pretentious means, that they keep changing how they act. So it's very difficult to discern what they are actually thinking. And this is also something that we can observe in ourselves in our day-to-day lives. That say sometimes we enjoy a certain meal and maybe tomorrow or in a few days we don't. A person is likable or for some time, but later it just changes, completely changes. So this ultimately leads to relationships that are now broken, divorces, and very uncertain actions and behavior. So, and it can also be seen with people who constantly change their jobs, who constantly look for new adventures, because there is no satisfaction in how we are acting right now. And this is also because opportunistic people can only think based on their own body and based on the five senses. They are unable to go beyond it, or maybe a little bit beyond it, but not much. So when a person is living primarily for their physical needs, they are only able to focus on personal desires without considering the need of a system at large, because the person is not even able to see the system. They can see every person maybe individually, but the coexistence is still not visualized. So, and despite the fact that their goal is also happiness, their direction towards attaining it keeps changing, because uh, they are expecting very quick results from this, which we'll also read later on. But because one is expecting quick results, that means they will keep, but when they don't get those results, they will keep changing their look towards it, and they will try something else. They'll try something else every time. So it is very clear that uh, without dedicating yourself to a task for an extended period of time, you cannot achieve mastery of it. And this basically means that this person is defeated by their circumstances. So I believe that the root cause in this could be lack of self-confidence, lack of inability to see a system at large. And this stems from inner confusion and instability. Okay, so next. All tendencies that lead to tribulation, strife, and terror within individual, family, societal, national, and international level of living are referred to as flawed thinking or opportunistic thinking. Conversely, thinking and actions that bring about joy, enthusiasm, coexistence, and absence of delusion are referred to as impeccable thinking or just thinking. So, there is a word called pravritti, which means tendencies. It refers to the state of hope, thoughts, desires, and resolution that occurs in a person in Jivan before an outward reaction takes place. So this is what we decide beforehand, what we visualize beforehand, before doing any action. And it reflects what is the inner orientation and the mindset of the person. So that is how the person will act or respond to a situation. Now, even going further, it is very clear that Babaji is talking about Bodhik Niyam. The Bodhik Niyam are intellectual laws that are absolutely necessary for impeccable thinking. And we need to set these Bodhik Niyam as our benchmark. Only then we'll be able to think justly. And we need to make it a target that this is the standard we are going to live by, not below it. And once we set that standard, and once we have this tivra ichha, extreme desire towards attaining it, only then we can put our entire body, mind, even monetary means into it And through all of this hard work, if all of this will become effortless. So this is something that we really need to achieve. The only underlying cause of tribulation, strife, and terror are accumulation, malice, ignorance, conceit, and fear. So here, Babaji has given words that are just opposite to the intellectual norms, intellectual laws. And as we talked about pravritti, so pravritti are shaped by how we live. So the question here is, does a person learn by when he keeps on committing mistakes and keeps on committing crimes? Or does a person learn by trying to or constantly doing what is right? So a mistake is essentially giving a lower value or more importance to a than higher value. Means giving importance to something which has lower value. Thinking, we can call it over-evaluation and under-evaluation. These are what constitute a mistake. So in this Anubhuti, we can see that a greed-driven person will give higher value to accumulation. A hate-driven person will give, they will be destructive, and which is going to lead to resistance or virod. An ignorant person will try to blame others for wrongdoings and for their own wrongdoings, which will lead to further wrong learnings. And one driven by pride seeks happiness by neglecting or despising others, which will lead to insolence. A fear-stricken person relies on weapons and shelter, which leads to terror. And all of these are just the opposite of intellectual laws, which are all going to lead to flawed thinking. The opportunistic or flawed thinking is mutually contradictory in behavior. Heart, pran, man, vritti, chit, and buddhi, resulting in the pain of friction, dejection, craving, unhappiness, unrest, and discontent. So whenever there is opposition in the actions of life, sorry, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. We can hear you clearly. Yeah.
Yes. Whenever there is opposition in the actions of Jivan, meaning that lower action is not regulated or controlled by a higher one, frustration will arise. There is going to be friction, dejection, craving, unhappiness, unrest, and discontent. So this virod, this frustration will manifest in different ways at every level, as we'll see further. So the contradiction between behavior and heart leads to friction. The contradiction between heart and pran leads to dejection. The contradiction between pran and man leads to craving. The contradiction between man and vritti leads to unhappiness. The contradiction between vritti and chit leads to unrest. The contradiction between chit and buddhi leads to discontent. And the alienation of buddhi from atma leads to ego. So we'll take the first word, which is shobh. Shobh is seen as friction. So this is a situation when one is unable to uphold values, and it is described as conflict between heart and behavior. So for example, I am asked to greet someone, but I don't accept them, I don't like them, or maybe the person is just, the person doesn't feel right. So I would not want to go and touch their feet. I would not want to greet them. Now, this is shobh. And because I'm asked to do something that I'm not able to accept. I'm asked to do something, I am asked to behave a certain way that I'm not able to accept. This exists at the level of helplessness, feeling helpless, feeling vivashta. So that is what I understand by shobh. Now, next is khed. Khed is dejection. So it is described as the expression of the absence or separation of essential elements. It is at the level of incompleteness. And this is related to body's well-being. Now, for example, there is a clot in the arteries, and the oxygen is unable to reach the heart. Now, this will, now person will obviously fall sick. And so that is also a kind of incompleteness, and that sickness will also lead to a feeling of incompleteness in oneself. Next is Trisha. Trisha is described as craving. Now, it is at the level of propensity. It involves doing things that make the mind subservient to desires, like alcohol, say tobacco, or drugs. So they create an addiction where the mind is going to crave this. Now, this is also a way of the pran to be able to control the man, and the man to not taste what the vritti is thinking. So what I've understood from this is that the opportunistic person, the way they behave is they try to control the higher value through lower value, because the actions that is happening, especially in Bhautikvad, especially in material world, what we are doing right now is trying to control our own uh, higher uh, say man through the lower value, through the body. So basically behavior, heart and pran, they are absolute uh, bodies entities, and rest of all are jivan. So all these, mainly these three issues are related to the body, and balance is absolutely essential here. So we can practice recognizing the problem. And so the interesting practice could be that we can recognize the problem, understand which category it falls into. And this categorization of our problems will help us clarify where the conflict is happening. And once we understand how the conflict has happened, or where it is placed, we can actually start working towards it. So say I am constantly thinking about some kind of food. So now I know that my conflict is between man and vritti. And since I know this, I can actually start working towards it. I can start maybe forcing myself to think more about the system, more about, say, what is essential right now, because there are kids here, because there are so many people who are looking up to me. I should not be thinking about, say, eating pizza. I should be thinking more about how I can make the food more nutritious, how I can create a balanced meal for the kids. So these are all thinking in justice oriented way. Okay, next.
I think
Behavior is in
this was very well explained, and something that this sutra was something which was I was struggling a bit, and I think you have explained it so well. Uh, there are contradictions at each level, and when these contradictions are resolved, then ac- and when we understand where the contradiction is, then we actually can work on resolving that contradiction. And you also described that an opportunistic person actually tries to uh, correct the higher value through some act in the lower value, right? Like, for example,
Yeah.
by taking intoxication, we are trying to satisfy heart, right? Which cannot actually happen, right? So, so wonderful. Very well explained.
I
Please.
actually have the doubt here in this paragraph. I read it many times. So,
Yes.
yes, I think these points are fantastic that you're making, that once you categorize, then we can at least not start with a solution and, an overall solution and start working in the wrong area. But I read the definition of heart and in Paribhasha Sahita, and it did talk about the physical heart. So I was trying to figure out the contradiction, between behavior and heart. I just couldn't find an example as to the physical heart means he's talking about physicality. Obviously, it's not dil, because then dil part would come into man or, somewhere there. So I'm not able to be able to grasp this. Is it possible to clarify this further? This, even the prana part, it leading to dejection. I couldn't capture the link.
Okay, so what I have understood from this is there are certain behaviors. There are certain behaviors with maybe everybody, maybe with some people, that lead to our heart having a faster pace that increases our heart space.
Okay.
So that is how I have related the two. And in case of pran is traditionally known as, so there are five vayus in the body, one of them is pran, which is the most essential. And pran is also the life force. It is what we inhale. And this pran is what oxygenates our entire blood, entire circulation system. So because the oxygen may not reach at a certain area, may say it doesn't reach the brain. So any activity beyond it becomes very difficult or impossible, depending on the circumstance. And pran also, there is also an anubhuti that says that pran pran inspires the heart to work.
Pran inspires the
Heart to work.
Okay.
Yes. And I think that is how I have understood the main anubhuti. I'm sorry, could you repeat your question about pran?
Yeah, I basically couldn't draw that connection between dejection and the conflict between the contradiction between heart and prana. So if I have to see heart as a physical entity, prana also somewhat physical entity that manifests in seeing health in the body. So what would be the contradiction there in life situation? I'm trying to spot it in my life so I can identify and work on it, But I couldn't, nothing came to my mind. So I realized I haven't understood it.
So
Why
I think this is
dejection?
completely related to the body. So it is completely related to the body. And
So if it's related to the body, then prana is the life force, and heart is that instrument that which you just connected. You said there's an anubhuti that prana makes the heart work.
yes, it inspires the heart to work.
So when does that contradiction happen? When we take medication, or in those
Yes, that is one way.
or when there is a disease that has struck us?
Yes, that is how I think. It is through a body's well-being that they are balanced. And I think through this anubhuti, Babaji is also trying to say that the wellness of the body, as in Sharir Swasthita, is extremely important for a tradition to happen, for a tradition to take place, for a tradition to form. And Mansik Swasthita, as in mental well-being, is also important, but the body's well-being is equally important. So dejection could be seen as when a person is sick, when a person has fallen ill, they will, I'm going to repeat this later, but they will isolate themselves. They would not want to talk to people. They would want to stay alone. And that is probably how the dejection thing works. So this is probably the consequence of the body's reaction or the body's sickness.
So finally, it impacts the behavior.
Yes, it does. Definitely.
Okay, great. And also, if you can explain this prana and man contradiction leading to craving. Again, I couldn't draw that connection. So the life force is about growth, and man is there is a contradiction, which means the man is not in line with the life force. Therefore, it will induce craving. Is that what? Am I understanding it right? So let's say my life force demands that I keep my body hydrated. I'm just taking an example. But my man is wanting to have Coke or Pepsi. So there is a contradiction there. and it will perpetually keep me in the place of craving because I'm not giving the balance to the body that it's needing. Is that what it is, or am I understanding it right?
Yes, I think what you said is correct, and I would also like to like to add that say what I was talking about drugs and tobacco and smoking, etc. So this is all ultimately a way of bringing pran to the level of man.
Bringing pran to the level of man, provided man is guided by the higher value.
Yes, man should ideally be. I mean, it is guided, and it is vritti is what it should listen to.
Yes.
But because we are मन को दबा रहे हैं, meaning we are trying to suppress our man. What happens when we take tobacco and all? We are unable to think. We are suppressing all the higher jivan kriyas. So, and this is what this will make us more uttejit, say more excited, and that is how I have drawn the conclusion between the two.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
And this is
that's
what
a
will
very
keep
good
craving
example
it again
given.
and again.
Yeah.
So see, for example, what Keyuri is saying is that we are trying to artificially excite pran to come in line with man. That's what we do in the case of intoxication, right? We are actually trying to make our body warmed up without actually having done the exercise. So you basically are feeling that you are having the feeling of having done the exercise. So, but it is actually leading to a sense of craving afterwards. For that moment, it is all right, but even afterwards, it is going to leave you with a sense of craving. So basically, there are three levels, most important level. There's a man, pran, and then hridaya. Hridaya is the center of the body, and pran is the center of all your sensory organs. Okay. And then man is what is the entity which basically through which Jivan actually expresses itself. So in the order of subtlety, you see the behavior, hridaya, pran, and then man, and then vritti, etc. So what Keyuri basically just explained is that there needs to be harmony at each level to be able to actually to have the normal expression of behavior, right? So everything can if a behavior is not normal, then it may be attributed to something wrong with the body. If a person is in a state of disease, even then their behavior can be abnormal. If a person is intoxicated, then too their behavior can be abnormal. Even a person with understanding can have their behavior abnormal if they are sick, right? So it's basically giving an end-to-end view of basically what does it take to have a normal behavior. The ultimate of that is uh, buddhi becoming disoriented from atma, right? Which is the final state of alignment that needs to be attained. Right? The Adhyayan actually addresses buddhi eventually.
It's a beautiful, I'm finding this paragraph to be really deep and beautiful. Thank you, Keyuri. You really explained well. And thanks, Rakesh Bhai.
Okay, I'll just move ahead in this. So, so behavior is in the refuge of body, heart, pran, and man, respectively. Consequently, the state of man gets reflected on pran, heart, and then actions manifest as performance of these. Man transmits signal to the brain related to ideas according to hope and expects to experience happiness in return. Now, behavior is regulated by the body, heart, life force, as in pran, and man. The man is the first link to the body, first connecting link. And brain is the direct link. So it signals the brain and activates the neurons that communicate with other parts of the body. So, for example, when a person is really sad, so we'll see that their breathing becomes longer, they start sighing, and there is a change in the heart rate. And there is also very strange kind of behaviors that is seen from that person. The actions have become uncertain. And similarly, when the mind is agitated, even then we can see that these changes are very evident. So this is also referred to as anxiety or panic attacks. Now it is very important to have a balanced one, and this balanced one will be reflected in breathing, the heart rate, and one's behavior. So it is very clearly reflected in pran, hriday, and vyavhar. The effect of contradiction and harmony between behavior and heart and pran, pran and man and vritti, occurs on man only. Because man is the jivan activity that experiences taste. Therefore, man is the one who is the experiencer of happiness or unhappiness from this contradiction or harmony. So, this is fairly self-explanatory, but the function of man is tasting and choosing. And man is the one that processes acceptance. So the swikriti happens in man, and it is also the kriya that recognizes happiness and sadness, or when they occur. So the man is also influenced, as we just talked about before, that it is influenced by behavior, the heart, pran, and vritti. So it should ideally be influenced by vritti, but right now in the Brahmit Sthiti, in the current state, it is also influenced by pran, heart, and behavior. Awakening is alignment of behavior through gross body according to subtle activity, and subtle activities according to causal activity, which results in resolution and prosperity. The reverse of this ensues decline, resulting in problems and impoverishment. So, it's also explained later that causal activity, as in Karan Kriya, the combined activity of Atma and Buddhi is referred to as causal activity. Subtle activity, the combined activity of Chit, Vritti, and Man. And gross body is the physical body along with 5 cognitive organs and 5 work organs, is referred to as gross body. So when the Chit, Vritti, and Man operate in accordance with Atma and Buddhi, and when the 5 senses operate in accordance with Chit, Vritti, and Man, that is when realization occurs. And through that, we are able to behave justly. Otherwise, there are going to be problems. And this is also mentioned that the causal activity is governed by Atma. The subtle activity is governed by Chit, and the gross body is governed by Pran. So these are the highest values in these activities. These are the highest kriyas. Without causal activity, the subtle activity cannot function. And without causal and subtle activity, the gross body cannot function. Now, the causal and subtle activity are inseparable. And them being inseparable is what signifies the immortality of Jiva. Both are essential for functioning of the human body and its activities. And to work on the gross body, one has to work on the subtle. And to correct the subtle activity, one has to work on the causal action. Now, in both the materialism and spiritualism, there have been efforts made to work on subtle actions, subtle activity, like Man, Vritti, and Chit. But Buddhi and Atma have kind of been sidelined, or they are left behind with the thought that a common man is not capable of understanding them. So people have either over-evaluated or under-evaluated themselves and the human race. So these have not been studied as much. the failure to uphold values in relationships and associations gives rise to friction, discord, and resentment. Perturbance in the physical aspect, as in work, gives rise to impoverishment and shortage. Perturbance in the body gives rise to disease and weakness. Perturbance in pran gives rise to anxiety and lack of enthusiasm. Perturbance in man gives rise to loneliness and unhappiness. Perturbance in vritti gives rise to laziness, negligence, and unrest. Perturbance in chit gives rise to artificiality, as in pretension, mystery, and dissatisfaction. Buddhi without enlightenment gives rise to delusion, ignorance, conceit, and ingratitude. Opportunistic behavior is the root cause of friction in humans, which is not devoid of wrongdoing and crime. So when one's role in relationships is not clear, or say the expectations are unclear, so friction is going to arise. Now, when expectation differs from one person to the other, means two people are expecting different things, this is going to lead to opposition. And when there is this lack of understanding, that is going to make the person maybe rigid or inflexible. Now, sequentially, they have talked about different kinds of frictions. And so the first is bhautik shobh. Now, when there is an expectation for contentment from the conscious aspect while engaging in material actions. Say I have a job and I expect to be happy from that job. I want a feeling of contentment, and I want a feeling of satisfaction from the job. But the job is not what is going to give me that. That is why a lack of there is going to be one is going to feel there is a lack of something, and there will be some kind of activity for the mind, for the man and jivan kriya, and one should also reflect and contemplate their days and the work routines. And the work should be viewed as a mixture of duty and responsibility instead of making it one's life's aim. So this is what I've understood by the physical perturbance or physical aspect perturbance. Now, the body aspect, that is the sharir shobh. Now, in this, we can see that overemphasizing work leads to giving everything into it. As in, we feel that this is what we just read about, that this work is my everything. So we'll give everything towards it and we will neglect the body. Now, this will result in illness. So we can see that people who work a lot have, say, weight gain issues, weight loss issues, maybe lifestyle disorders or deficiency disorders. So very easily for practice, we can do that. What we can do is eat according to, seasons and timing. Maybe have particular timing at which we eat instead of eating the entire day. Maintaining body hygiene, following daily routine, and engaging in a beneficial diet and lifestyle habits. Next is pran shobh. So pran is understood as life force, as we just spoke about, and it inspires the function of heart. And the balance in pran is extremely essential, because when vayu or vat in general gets imbalanced, there are like 80 different disorders that can happen in the body. So heart rate will fluctuate, say there is adrenaline rush due to fear. So these kind of things are seen. And what we can see in a person who's going through this is, say, lack of energy, there is fatigue, there are anxiety attacks, panic attacks, there are psychosomatic disorders. So these are connected to all three, pran and man as well. But a lot of it is connected to pran. Say lack of energy and fatigue is purely pran. Now, what we can practice is exercising, meditation, pranayam, physical labor, and yoga. So these are things that can be practiced to balance this in the body. Also, eating habits and daily routine. Now, next is for man. So say when the body is unwell, it is going to affect the man. Now, chronic illness, I've already explained this before, but I'll just repeat it quickly. that chronic illness is going to lead to a feeling of loneliness and sadness. And these are all symptoms of the man not properly functioning. So the examples will include not talking to others, avoiding social interactions, or feeling isolated. And for this, what we can practice is staying open to others, having a very welcoming feeling towards everybody, and actively trying to spend time with others and not alone. Because a person who's alone at this time is going to go, the condition is going to go worse. Now, next for Vritti, a person, so this sad person is definitely going to become lazy at the level of thought, because they are only, it's very difficult for this person to think outside of their own needs. And they would not want to think about larger things, or they would want to only think about, they would only be able to think about their own issues or their own health. And this will lead to unrest. Now, in this case, examples could be that whenever we are sick, we end up wasting a lot of time on meaningless things. We think about very small things. We maybe think about them a lot, or it's called overthinking. And also, this leads to indecisiveness, not able to making decisions, not unable to make decisions. So what we can practice in this is we can recognize the importance of being a part of a larger system. And we should also embrace responsibilities. Now, Chit. So without Sakshatkar, the actions of existence appear mysterious. And one fails to understand the arrangement of every entity in this coexistence. And when the buddhi does not support this, the person is going to become a little pretentious that, okay, I understand this. It's not that I don't understand. There is going to be that pretentiousness that is going to come. So what we can see in this is a person who is affected by Chit Shobh or perturbance of Chit is going to commit crimes, going to make a lot of mistakes, say social and intellectual, both the crimes are going to be committed. They will be unable to picturize a mediative, they are going to unable to picturize the mediative knowledge, the Madhyasth Gyan. And they will consider their own desire to be supreme. So the practice to avoid all this would be to follow the social norms, to follow the samajik niyam. Now, in case of Bodh Rahit Buddhi, because one is considering themselves as superior, one fails to accept others and recognize their role in one's life, leading to delusion. Now, this will naturally lead to arrogance and ingratitude, because you're not able to see the other person's role in your life or how they have improved you, because you're considering yourself as superior. So this will lead to arrogance and ingratitude and ignorance. And to be able to balance buddhi is to accept the presence of a senior or a more experienced person. That is the only way to balance buddhi, or the one way that I can see. Okay, so next Anubhuti. Due to the rapidly changing belief.
Can I ask something here?
Yes.
This one where it says the perturbance means disturbance. I don't know the meaning of it. I know you said the word kshod, but I still don't understand the meaning. It means disturbance of any kind. Is that what it means?
Yes, that is the idea. That
Okay,
was
so
the idea.
perturbance in chitta gives rise to artificiality and mystery. So can you explain mystery? What does it mean? It means not being clear. It means
So like I said, that one is not able to visualize one is not able to visualize how the existence actually is. One is not able to visualize that how the planet is, how the astitva is. That is why everything is a mystery to them. This is what I understand by the word mystery.
Yeah, it's also
वैसा बोल रहे हैं कि
yeah,
उसमें
yes,
clarity नहीं।
that's what I also understood, is that basically, when we do not uh, understand the things, when Chit is not supported by Buddhi, and Buddhi, which is the bearer of understanding, if Chit is not supported by Buddhi, one actually derives the sense of connectedness by actually attributing things to some mysterious things, like mysterious gods or mysterious events and things like that. So one takes the support of that, right? So that is what I actually understand from this. So, 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 so in the absence of basically having the rootedness of buddhi, chit actually becomes pretentious,
Hmm.
and or it actually takes rest in mysterious beliefs.
Yeah.
Right. So it's only when we have the understanding of reality that we get rooted in the correct. The definition of mystery in the chapter 17 that gives is that which we cannot understand, or that which we cannot understand, or that which we cannot explain is a
Hmm.
mystery. Right.
But then how do you describe people, let's say like Rudolf Steiner, because I've been reading him a lot. He describes phenomena that is happening, which there is no way I can quantify, but um, well, there's a whole school of thought dependent on it. And so does it mean that he
See the
explains that
law.
and he connects it to some reality, but it's a lot of mystery as well. Uh, so,
Babaji actually says is that there is nothing mysterious. There are things are actually governed by laws. And what idealistic contemplation actually says is there is mystery behind it. The whatever is happening in the phenomenal world has its bearing on in some world which is actually mysterious world. And
hmm,
that mystery is itself is knowledge,
hmm,
right? So that is the basically the driven over here. Over here, Babaji is saying is that what is at the level of buddhi and atma, the causal understanding, is something that can be explained by words and it can be understood through logic.
hmm,
Right? So it not just the aspects that we can actually deal with in our day-to-day living, but the aspects of realization can also be explained through words. So I have not read much on Rudolf Steiner and Waldorf education, but there is much that there is of value over there, right? Especially in the terms of practices, right?
yeah.
Uh, and but in terms of Gyan aspect of the things, I have a lot of questions there.
Hmm. So, for
So,
example, if somebody is talking about aura and all, would you consider that in the space of mystery?
I would
Yeah.
consider that as if I cannot explain it, if I
Yeah.
cannot actually understand it, then I would count it as a mystery.
So, clairvoyance about some of these phenomena can be considered mystery, but clairvoyance
Definitely.
in itself about reality is reality.
Yeah, there is no clairvoyance, there is actually understanding and projection, right? So you would actually explain that, okay, this is my understanding of laws. Like Babaji was not a clairvoyant, right? He
How do you
said,
mean?
I understand the behavior, and he would actually I understand the reality, and I would actually explain to you through the normal behavior. So
Hmm,
he did not resort to any
hmm,
in any mystical or occult practices to actually prove what he had understood. Instead, he said that what he had actually understood can be explained, can be brought into conduct, can be explained through behavior, and can be explained through logic. So basically awakening that he said has no place for occult and mystery. So he didn't say that occult and mystery are not there. He said that awakening has no place for it.
That's powerful. Fine. Thank you.
Can I try giving an example here?
Yes,
What
please.
I've understood. Very basic one, but so there are times when a kid over here does something that I'm not able to understand as to why this person is behaving in a certain way. And this has happened a lot of times when I've not been able to understand, and I just consider that person to be that this person is just like that, instead of that the person wants to change or maybe they want to improve, all of that. But I'm not able to see that part. So that I think this thing in me that when I'm seeing that person to be only like this, then there is a certain way that I behave with them because I don't expect anything from that person. Then I start behaving in a very pretentious way. And this leads to dissatisfaction in myself because I constantly have this feeling, what more can I do? What more can I do to improve my relationship with the person? What more can I do to work towards this? And then I end up asking somebody who maybe has seen or maybe has lived with the person for a longer period of time. And they tell me that something, this and this situation is going on in their home. And then that suddenly unravels. Okay, this is what happened. So that is when, okay, maybe the mystery is solved. But until then, that was a mystery for me. I was not able to visualize the entire picture. I was only able to see a very small part of it. So this is what I've understood in a very behavioral way.
That makes sense to me. Yes. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. I'll go to the next Anubhuti. Due to the rapidly changing beliefs of opportunism, such behavior lacks cohesiveness. In the absence of cohesiveness, there is perturbance in buddhi, as it is not aligned with atma. Perturbance in chit, as it is not aligned with buddhi. Perturbance in vritti, as it is not aligned with chit. Perturbance in man, as it is not aligned with vritti. And perturbance in behavior within relationships and associations, due to pran, heart, body, and actions not being according to man. So I already explained a part of this before, but an opportunistic person expects quick results. And for example, I want to eat something right now. Okay, I'll order it immediately. I don't like something. Okay, fine, I'll just remove it. So right now, at least the materialistic world is, the system is made like this. There are 10-minute delivery system, there is instant food, YouTube shorts, stock market, all of this is based on very immediate and quick results. But this will not work in terms of creating a system. And this expectation will, because we are expecting this thing from materialistic things, we also expect it from people, from other people. But it becomes futile because immediate results are not achieved in a Jivan way of thinking. So, until we spend a lot of time at something, our thoughts are constantly going to change because we expect that, okay, I have done this for one day, I should get a result. But it does not work like that. So, even right now, we can see in the present generation that patience is something that is not there. I mean, I have seen it in so many young kids that they're not able to watch a video which is 20 minutes long. That is it. It's only 20 minutes long, but they're so used to watching videos that are like 1 minute. So they'll just be like, okay, I'm not watching this. And it's also a little bit of this is also in me. So the system is now become such. And the behavior of such individuals is relative to the others and depends on constantly changing thoughts. And this will reflect a lack of coherence. So this is only, to practice creating a coherent system is only possible through the guidance of of buddhi. And only then can we make a humane tradition. And it's also achieved by living in a human tradition. Next, humans with perturbed buddhi, ego, believe their knowledge is superior. Those with perturbed chit believe their planning is superior. Those with perturbed vritti believe their thoughts and reasoning is superior. And those with perturbed man believe gratification through instincts is superior. This itself gives rise to arguments and disputes among humans. Therefore, opportunism proves to be the root cause of arguments and disputes among humans, and it is not devoid of crime. Now, perturbance can be viewed as a form of bondage, bandhan. And when the man is perturbed, it signifies asha bandhan, as in the bondage of hope. And when a person identifies themselves solely as the body, they regard sensory pleasures as superior. When the thoughts are bound by attachments, they remain entangled in very confused ideas and very only thinking in a very problematic way. So they consider their reasoning to be superior, which ends up causing distress to others as well. A person who's bound by desires expects confused aspirations and holds their visualizations to be superior. This will lead to very confused planning, and this will also give rise to inhumanity, meaning a system where constantly crimes are being created. So just opposite of what the Samajik Niyam says. And when one considers themselves or their action as superior while deeming others as inferior, conflicts, debates, and various kinds of fighting is inevitable. The lack of enlightenment of truth itself is the perturbance of buddhi. Now, perturbance of buddhi means being devoid of the realization of satya, of gyan, satyabodh. Egoism means being able to see oneself only up to the level of buddhi. I have limited understanding on this, but I'll try what I've understood. But this is definitely a very high stage. This is not a small state. So in this state, a person will not commit any offense, they will not commit any crimes. But there will be a slight degree of over-evaluation and under-evaluation. So they will act based on what their knowledge is, and they will consider it to be superior. And there will obviously not be any crimes happening, but slight fluctuation in the evaluation is going to happen. So maybe what the result is, maybe it's going to be slightly different from what they have assumed. Okay. For an argument or dispute to occur, either one or both sides have to be wrong due to delusion, as it is not possible to have an argument or dispute when both sides are right. So usually when a conflict is happening with us and the other party, we end up thinking about either what the others are doing wrong, or maybe what I did wrong, or what is the problem, in a very problematic way, only focusing on the problems. But instead, something that we are during, we can start better, or maybe how this could have been better. So this is a solution-oriented way of thinking, and this is what will lead to resolution. Otherwise, the previous stage is just a waste of time. Or Vigyanmay Kosh, an awakening. So Vigyanmay Kosh is the part that receives the essential knowledge and is referred to as Vigyanmay Kosh. In tradition, Anandmay Kosh has been considered superior, but Babaji has given Vigyanmay Kosh more importance. Delusion and ignorance is solely due to undeveloped Vigyanmay Kosh, which is indicative of opportunism. Wrong is the lack of transparency or incomplete development of sentient aspect, that is Jivan. Non-transparency itself results in lack of understanding of the laws of awakening, leading to opportunism. we can see that when we have to hold a secret, it's like a very heavy pressure on us. And it's not easy to keep secrets because you have to constantly lie and constantly keep on changing, maybe also remember what we have talked about previously. So it is not a natural behavior. Life is very easy when we are being transparent. But the transparency can only happen when we are not committing crimes. If we are committing crimes, secrecy is absolutely essential because how else can you hide it? So it is only possible through practicing the samajik niyam, the social norms, practicing rightfully owned wealth, marital faithfulness, and kindness in work and behavior or compassionate behavior that we will be able to lead a transparent life. It is solely due to free will that humans have the opportunity to engage in thought, desire, resolve, realization, and manifestation of thoughts pertaining to justice, injustice, dharma, adharma, and truth, untruth in their behavior. So we have the free will of doing right or wrong, but one cannot learn by constantly making mistakes. We can only learn by practicing the correct behavior. Maybe it could be through anukaran, that is copying somebody who is superior to us, who has more experience. And that is the only way one can start learning new things or develop ourselves. And that is also the way we can start having pure thoughts through which our desires will be in a bigger picture. It will not be narrow. It will be in a bigger picture. We'll be able to understand the system. And this is how one can develop a humane system instead of inhumanity that we saw before. And this humane system will be beneficial to every single avastha. The conformance in the insentient nature is through result in material order and seed in biological order. In the sentient nature, conformance is in the form of hope and desire through species in animal order and sanskar in knowledge order. The conformance in humans is by way of sanskar within man, vritti, chit and buddhi. Hence, the intellectual level of every deluded human is different. The difference in intellectual levels is the root cause of diversity in activities of humans. Intellectual diversity as awakening or unawakening is the reason humans embrace just or unjust behavior. So this is absolutely something that I really enjoyed reading because this cleared whatever was written before in the chapter. So the reason for that is very clearly explained because there is intellectual diversity. Now, humanity or humans are linked to sanskar. For example, when we see children learning things, so there are times when they learn things on their own, but and it could be good or bad. But if we don't constantly remind them the good things that they have done, constantly repeat, they are likely to forget it. Therefore, along with living, it is also essential to speak, do, as well as encourage them, encourage those actions. So this is very clear because humans are linked to sanskar. And right now, Sanskriti Sabhyata, that is culture and civilization, that is very clearly described. But Vidhi and Vyavastha is also being given after that. Means humane education is the way we can bring the culture and civilization into practice. And it is through this education that a proper system can be established. The identification of right and wrong, along with the commitment to live accordingly, will arise from education. There must be approval of what is right, and sometimes there also has to be punishments for various mistakes. So only then can a human tradition be established. Conformance in sentient nature, is only a movement from creation to dissolution, seed, and from dissolution to creation. I'll read the next one as well. The realization-oriented concept, sanskar, acquired in buddhi, manifest in thoughts and actions progressively. The thoughts generated from actions become instilled again as concepts, sanskar, in buddhi upon inference. So, this is very clear that only after Sakshatkar can our sanskar strengthen. And I also said this before that so it may seem that we have understood something after doing it once or twice, but we need to constantly repeat doing the right action. It needs to be repeated. Maybe during a perturbed state, it becomes monotonous, but this right action needs to be constantly repeated. Only after this repetition, sometimes, not sometimes, in fact, every time it happens that we start enjoying it. Otherwise, and until we don't repeat these actions, these correct actions, there is a possibility of reverting back to our old habits. So, and these sanskar that are developed through the repetition of these correct actions is expressed in our thoughts and action. The repeated thoughts that arise from correcting ourselves further reinforce those sanskar. So, by having sanskar in us, we'll do our actions and thoughts correctly. And through feedback mechanism, what we are doing and thinking will also reinforce those sanskar. This is beautiful line.
And is this in the transition phase? I'm trying to see the comparison of this sanskar bit in the awakened state also, because I feel wahan to, if I've understood something clearly, very naturally I will repeat. I don't have to make an effort towards repeating. But in today's state, where I am in the process of understanding, probably there is more relevance of repeating it again and again with consciousness. Am I understanding it right? Is that what he's trying to say? Or
Yes, so there are times when we have done something and it was the correct thing to do. And we got a good result, but we end up forgetting it the next time. Because maybe our mood is not right, maybe something has happened at home that or maybe something has happened at home that is disturbing us in a way. So we end up doing an action that is not as we did the previously. So this is how these mistakes occur. And because while we are learning, or in the Anubhavgami phase, when we are learning, we need to actually memorize while doing these things, that we have to keep it in memory. Only then, and maybe doing it a couple of 100,000 times, will this be absolutely sthir in our buddhi. That is what I believe sanskar during and avdharna is. That is what they mean by avdharna. And it will constantly be supported by, and it will constantly be nourished by sakshatkar. Every time we do something right, and every time sakshatkar is, every time we iska sakshatkar hua. So every time that happens, this is going to be nourished more. And the complete nourishment will happen in the Anubhav Mulak Vidhi. That is called dharna, which is just going to be the next Anubhuti.
so in a way, every time we understand something in bits and bits, then at the body level, the neural pathways need to be created for it to become an instinct. Am I understanding it? Is that what, in common jargon, that's what चालू भाषा में मैं ऐसे समझ रही हूँ इसको.
I would not say that it was
No?
completely valid, because that would be the part of the things that we mechanically do through muscle memory. Those would be, but here we are saying that there will be certain subtle level of changes. In fact, which basically are connecting our desires with the understanding. So this is not just the mechanical aspect of habits that we are correcting, but we are correcting our underlying belief system itself, right? So those aspects are also important. Like, for example, riding a bicycle, you ride it so many times. So now after that, it becomes your second nature. So that is the mechanical aspects of instincts, or what we call as adhyas, will be there. But here we are talking about something more subtle than that. Here we are talking about changing our entire belief systems to the way the existence is, so that our chit becomes aligned with our buddhi, that Keyuri call as sakshatkar or direct perception. So that you basically are no more driven by uh, impulses, but are driven by your buddhi, by your understanding, right?
Hmm. Okay, I get it. Thanks.
So, Babaji, when this is what I've heard, that when the educational system was being made, when Babaji wrote the thing, so he said that education is guided, is in a guided form until class 12th. And after that, research takes precedence. So, uh, education's role is to make us reach the level of both. And after both, it is the person themselves that will reach anubhav, that will reach realization. So after that, shodh, research will take place. And sanskar is completed only through realization. And this is essential for human beings to contribute into creating a proper system or a humane system. So that is mentioned, realization-based enlightenment itself is the innateness. This itself is the completeness of sanskar. Thank you.
Is this complete of your chapter, what you were going to do? So,
Yes,
Kevin,
yes.
I must say that it is wonderful. What you have done is something really amazing, exceeded all my expectations. I think Babaji had once said that you just do it to the best of your abilities, this translation thing, and the next generation and the people who will take it to the next level themselves. And I see that happening. I mean, basically, by your reading it, the understanding that you bring to it, the life that you bring to it was amazing. Your the I mean, we could actually perceive uh, the stability that you are having in your mind in terms of your resolve to what you want to be doing, and the understanding and of the concepts that you have actually attained is something which is at a very high level in my view. So something which is totally enjoyed it. And I hope that by doing this exercise, it was of some benefit to you. But definitely for us, for all of us, we had totally enjoyed it. So I would like to invite everyone else. So also maybe when want to say something. Imanshu Bhaiya, you want to say something? Proud father.
Uh, Till today, I had the thought that I can never understand the darshan in English.
Mhm.
I think my impression about the this has completely changed there, and this is one of the first few sessions I've ever had in English. I've never attended any session earlier in English, so this is it's like a bolt of lightning for me. That even with a limited understanding of a language, it's possible to understand a lot of aspects of a darshan. Yeah.
Yes,
Wonderful.
indeed. I think
Yeah.
Babaji, what Babaji has is something basically transcends language, right?
Hmm.
And I think we cannot undermine any language, and we cannot actually put any language on pedestal, right? So,
True. Agree.
mm. So anyone
Yes,
else would like to say
yes,
something?
Keyuri, I have really enjoyed the session today, and it's heartwarming to see how much attention you have paid to seeing, drawing those connections of what is being said to life. And I think this true awakening is starting in the young, where it's not just a concept far away, but it's an understanding that you want to live. Therefore, you're searching in it in practical life. And and it's really beautiful. You have a grip on it, lady. Go be the trainer. All of
In-
Thank
you
you.
just fly, and we will fly in our next life, I think. We'll be born to you girls or boys.
yeah,
Yes, it's lovely.
I think, I mean, we live our life in our children also, in our
Yes,
grandchildren also.
yes.
So it's in some ways actually uh, we somehow it actually makes us transcend to our bodily limits when we actually see our children grow, right? So it is really wonderful, right? So
I'm so inspired. I'm gonna say some of these things in my granddaughter who's only 2 months old in her ears quietly.
very nice. So next session is going to be by Mridu Didi and Ankit Bhaiya. So I don't know in what order they will be doing. So, so Drishta, you want to say something?
Yeah, hi Keyuri.
Hi, Didi.
I really enjoyed listening to you, and I think it was so clearly presented. And as I was remembering, you've always been eloquent, but I think just explaining this content in English, it's a whole different thing because you really have to be one with it. Like you really have to see what you're talking about to be able to explain it in a whole different language. So I think that was quite clear how much you really thought about it and imbibed it. So it was so great to hear that. And I felt like it was so appropriate that you were doing this chapter because this is the chapter on, the interface between the body and the Jivan. And since you are a student both of Ayurveda and of Darshan, I think it's so appropriate that you took this on. And actually, Renu Auntie asked about the section that I was also wanting to ask you specifically about, actually, because this is something that has kind of confused me or kind of also tickled me for a while. What exactly could this be talking about? Because the Khed bit, and also the others also, but specifically that, because it's talking about the relation between the heart, the pran, and the man. And from as I've understood it, it somehow I thought it was linked to the state of listlessness or depression or dejection, that state of a human being. And as it has been studied, that has an association, like your physical state affects your mental as in depression is seen as both a physical as well as a mental malady. And so I was wondering, based on your understanding of Ayurveda and Darshan, and specifically this association that he has drawn, if you could maybe if you, kind of connected it in any way, this, pran, hriday, and khed or depression. At least that's how I was understanding it up till now. It could be maybe not that.
So I did I tried to connect a lot of it uh, while preparing for this. This was also new for me because I had never really thought about Kate before. Um, but I do think it is related to depression in some ways. But I think I was able to understand most of what I already said in the session. And I'm also little bit confused in Khed. I think there is something that is stuck. And I want to read it a little more before answering your question, how it connects to Ayurveda. So maybe I'll answer it on the group, maybe in a few days when I read more on this.
Great, that'd be really nice. Right? Yeah, because I think it is also seen as somewhat of a Vata disorder, even, I mean, in Ayurveda. Both maybe anxiety and so yeah, if you could figure this out, make some connections between the two and share it with us, that'd be great.
I have something in mind, but it is not, I am not able to put it into language, but I will definitely answer your question in the group.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think Renu Didi is saying in the chat message that maybe we could organize a session on Jivan and Sharir interface. I think that would be something that would be interesting, and we could probably think of a format in which we could have a panel sort of a discussion, and in which we have people coming from different background, and we are coming from different backgrounds, and with the single objective of understanding this darshan. So it would actually kind of help us in uh, putting together the pieces and enhance our understanding, right? So instead of seeing these exercises as only one a teaching kind of exercises, we could actually see this thing more like an exploratory dialogue, right? Where you say that, okay, this is what I have understood, and this is what the message is there in Darshan, and this is what Ayurveda actually is saying from your experience, or what we, and so on and so forth. So perhaps more ideas for the future, but probably we will first complete our series of sessions that we are intending to do, yeah, for reading of this book, right? As that is the first task we have taken at hand. Yeah. Spencer, you want to say something?
Yes. Namaste, Keyuri Didi. I don't think we have met spent time in person. I don't believe. Am
No,
I correct? Yeah, okay.
no.
Yes. No, but you know, I've spent some time with your father and got to know him a little bit, and I'm just almost feeling proud on his behalf, you know. It's so nice to hear you speak and to hear him a little bit through you, you know, and I can see all the good qualities have passed along to you. Uh, I would be very happy to have you as a doctor. All your patients are very lucky. You know, you not only you have Ayurveda, but you also have Darshan and some confidence in both, it looks like. So so yeah, it was very nice, and I quite enjoyed. You obviously prepared, and you were bringing in many examples and many things from outside of just what was written there. So it's obvious that you did a good preparation, and yeah, it was very nice. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keyuri. And Mridu Didi, you want to say something? Will you be presenting next time, or Ankit Bhaiya?
I'm majorly stressed now because she has raised the bar very high. She told me she'll go first so that she doesn't have to worry about us raising the bar high, but she tricked us.
I think definitely the children are going to raise the bar higher. So,
Yes.
I mean, but we are really looking forward to listening to you, Nidhu Didi. I mean, your practical experience of the last few years at Manav Teerth. I mean, it is something which is which we all want to actually listen to. So, uh, so looking forward to listening to you next week.
Same here, and I thoroughly enjoyed the session, and also the way you were responding to Renu's
Mhm.
Manav said.
Yeah, your voice is a little breaking for us.
So thank you. हाँ
ठीक है, so we will close our today's
Can I
session.
can I say
And
something? Just
yes, please.
Mridu Didi and Ankit Bhaiya helped me a lot to prepare for this session, and I would like to really thank them for this, and publicly for that matter, because I was constantly going to Didi and like, Didi, how do I explain this Anubhuti? What is written in this? And she gave me so much time for this despite her busy schedule. So big thanks to Sadan Tauji, Mridu Didi, Ankit Bhaiya, and everybody in Manav Teerth.
Excellent. Yeah, and we look forward to seeing you more often here, Keyuri. Yeah. For our discovery.
Thank you.
ठीक है जी, सभी को नमस्ते, and we'll close today's session now. And good night and have a nice day wherever you are.
Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste. Good night.
Namaste. Good night.
Good night.